Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures, and today we're doing another episode of our Jurassic World Evolution 3 Mod Spotlights, where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people are making and compare them to the real-life fossil counterparts. So today, as I mentioned, we've got another kind of, I want to bookend these with each with a new species, and luckily we've got another new one today. We've actually got some remasters of the Pteranodon done by Narwhaler, some other cool remasters, and also a few others done by Master Dude. So I'm quite excited to get stuck into this one. So first up, we've got here Narwhaler's Pterosaur pack. So this one is the first one that we've got here, Dimorphodon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome Dimorphodon to the...
See, here's one. You stop it like that, look at that. It actually looks so amazing. So, let me check. I'm pretty sure that's a male. We can have the male and the... Where's the female? There's a female over here. So we'll have a look at you, because you're probably in the best light. And gosh, I do love how much this lighting has improved from the first game. So let's have a look. So you can see here, what we've got here is the Dimorphodon. It's obviously changed a lot from the original one. You see some of the anatomy has changed quite a bit. Even though it still needs to be fully accurate, needs some more updates. But we'll have a look at these guys as we kind of look around them. Dog's been a menace. Anyway, so you can see, instead of having that really bulldog-like face going on there, you can see here we've got the kind of more longer face that's more accurate to what Dimorphodon would look like. It had a very much kind of long face. And also these bigger teeth as well, so that pretty much is spot on for Dimorphodon as well. It doesn't have the pycna fibers, which is technically, I would say they're more likely just feathers, but you can see you've got the more accurate face there. The wings of animals got a bit more bulk, and the wings have definitely been extended a bit with those tips there. Maybe a bit of a probatagium there, but other than that, you can see, especially around the head, the anatomy has been greatly improved, which is really, really cool. Narwhaler, always likes to knock it out of the park with these remasters and stuff like that. So it came out really, really nice. I really like how that head came out, and just got a bit of a remaster to make it look more like it's not only just look nicer, but it does look a lot more like its actual fossil counterpart. Just needs some fuzz, really, and some more accurate, potentially just tagium and stuff like that. Yeah, very, very nice. Definitely a big fan. So that's the first one of these remasters, or the earliest of the pterosaurs that we got here. Next up, we've got Pteranodon. So this one's quite cool because we actually have documented sexual dimorphism in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome...
So this is a pretty cool one. Don't know why they flew off all in this way, but that's okay. So we've got a male and a female here to compare. So this is, they were actually considered almost different species, but we have so many specimens of Pteranodon itself, we actually know that it pretty definitely has sexual dimorphism with a lot of the traits. We have the sample size to actually confirm, which is really cool. See, this is one that's definitely the female. You can see it doesn't have quite that, disheveled, wrinkled anatomy that the original one had. It's got a lot more accurate head, which looks amazing. A lot more fat on it and not quite as wrinkly and weird. I do quite like that beak, how that came out. Mainly the changes to the face, but body seems pretty alright. Still needs the patagium to come down here. And the feet could use a little bit of work. But yeah, still looks really, really cool. Like that one. And then we've got here the male, so you can see the male in comparison. See, look, that profile looks so much better. Just needs to come out a little more. But you can see this is the male with the larger crest. So this is the cool thing about Jurassic World Evolution 3. Now that we've got sexual dimorphism in babies, we can actually see that accentuated pretty well. So that's the male, much taller crest, that very charismatic look. Which is quite funny, because all the Jurassic Park Pteranodons, the ones they show in the first movies, they would all be males with the big, crest. But, there's sometimes supposed to be all females, even though there was breeding going on, and probably just some males propped up, as they do in the Jurassic Park lore. Yeah, another really cool one there. Definitely really cool to see the Pteranodon getting some love, and some other pterosaurs too. But last but certainly not least, actually one of my favourites, we've got Tapejara with sexual dimorphism, and it's pretty obvious, which is really, really cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to...
I feel like Narwhaler uses an excuse to have two species in one. So you can see this is the male. So there's two different species of Tupandactylus, which is actually probably the more accurate animal of Tapejara. So Tupandactylus in gens has got like this really tall crest, and it's actually well known that we even know the colours of it, and we know it was like a black and red colour. So this is kind of that more interpretive in gens kind of style as well, which is really, really cool. Other changes to the anatomy, as you can see there. And then you'll see down here, this is more like the typical Tapejara Welsfoldi, which is the species. So much more of a big rounded crest. So you kind of get the best of both worlds in there. And that's another one there, you can see it's got that. Looks really, really cool, by the way. I'm really just a huge fan of how this one's come out. And it's cool that we get actual sexual dimorphism as well. Just needs, those little changes I was talking about before. Really, really cool. This one's, even though it's pretty basic, you still get a really good look. Really nice crest as well. So you get like the best of both worlds with those two species there. But yeah, that's really, really cool. Alright, that's the Pterosaurs done, but that's not done with the Narwhaler remakes, because he seems to dominate these quite a bit. Next up here, we've got a remaster of a dinosaur. This is Stygimoloch. That's very cool. Stygimoloch. Okay, so that one, I believe this one's the male, female. So the female, of course, has slightly smaller horns, just to make sure. So it doesn't have that really stupidly big bobble head as it did before. So that's really, really cool. So you can see, but first off, Stygimoloch is thought to be its own potential species of Pachycephalosaurus, but still in a mature form, so it would have probably these larger spikes, something like how Sandy would look. But you can see the sexual dimorphism on these guys. Here you can see this is a male, much larger horns here, and you can see that beginning of the dome. From what we know of Spinifer, which is Stygimoloch Spinifer, but now it's considered Pachycephalosaurus, would have had a bit of a larger dome, very typical of Wyomingensis, but would have had these spikes as well. That's kind of the current consensus at the moment. Though we just don't have enough fossils, Pachycephalosaurus fossils are actually very rare, so we don't really have a good idea of what they look like. But you can see what's really cool, it's given a much smaller head, and I really like these horizontal pupils. Really makes it fit that more herbivorous look. And, just overall got a bit of a tuck, and everything looks really, really good. And you can see the females, a bit more obvious, isn't quite as big horns, smaller dome. Really does fit the Stygimoloch quite well. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, really, really cool. So we'll let them run off and do their thing, as we like to. Next up here, we've got the Triceratops. So this is another remaster done by Narwhaler. So I thought I'd cover this one because I really want to talk about the shape of the horns as well. So this is definitely a male. We'll pose you. Where are you going to pose in the sun? There you go. Pose you in the sun. So, I would say a lot of people underestimate the amount of keratin on the horns of dinosaurs. As I mentioned with Borealis pelta when we covered that remaster not too long ago, I think in the last part actually, that based off that, it seems like dinosaurs, very similar to modern mammals, their horns was about 1.5 times the length of their bone core. So that extra 0.5% or extra 50% would have been all keratin. So that doesn't mean that it would look exactly the same. That potentially means it would be different shapes. So because we know of Triceratops' very interesting life cycle, how much it changed from a juvenile or a hatchling from a juvenile up to an adult, that actually comes up with the design for its really, really interesting shaped horns, and you can see that's explained pretty well in the male. I'd have to say that came out really, really well. I'm really in love with how that that improved the skull of that one. And it definitely looks like Horridus, because Horridus has a much larger nasal horn than Porosus. So yeah, really, really cool there. Also changed the patterns. Also it has the typical scoots on there as well. But really cool there, you can see that big changes to the face there. The pattern's got a bit of improvement too. The body hasn't seemed to have been changed too much, because obviously the feet are still wrong and the body's still way too big and all that. But it came out rather wonderfully, and you can see that's the male there. This one I'm pretty sure is a female. Yep, that's a female. So you can have a look. It does have that same kind of look, but not quite as, it's actually quite a good comparison here. You can see it's curved in a bit, but not quite as pointy as the male. So yeah, really, really cool. Of course, I'm going to let them run off and do their thing, of course. All these really wonderful remasters, I love going through them. I've still got at least 3 or 4 parts to go with them. All done by Narwhaler, who really loves to just go in there and edit things to make them look pretty nice. And I have to commend that. You've got to commend that. So, next up, we've got the rest of the mods here are all done by Master Doot. I do love Master Doot. He's really been killing it in the mod scene with these mods, of course. And this is one of the cosmetics that I haven't quite got around to yet. It does make the Acrocanthosaurus look like a clownfish, but it's much more accurate in terms of anatomy. Oh, that's a cool pose. Oh, I might... There we go. Well, let you look at that cool pose. Okay, so we kind of already know what the frontier Acrocanthosaurus looks like. Very much big, bulky, just like fat T-Rex. But here you can see it's got a much more accurate anatomy. Acrocanthosaurus has a very characteristic skull, and you can see that's put rather wonderfully in here. You can also see it's got a bit of a high, because Acrocanthosaurus means high crest spine lizard. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it means. You've got all this crest here. Often people really do accentuate it to make it more of a sail, but I really like how Master Doot here has added a lot of muscle as well, done a little bit of both. Really fits that early Carcharodontosaurus look. You got those big arms here, big legs, and that longer tail. As I keep mentioning, the Jurassic Park just needs to make the tails too short. But yeah, and this is based on a clownfish, so this colouring is based on a clownfish, just like your typical, clownfish like Nemo. But it actually does fit rather well. It's amazing how much that colour palette, does fit, and all these extra patterns and things really does break the outline. And it actually makes sense. A lot of dinosaurs that we have today know the colours of, things like Borealopelta, even Diplodocus these days. I'll get into that in another part of Jurassic World Evolution 2, or Spotlight, as you guys will very much enjoy. We do have preserved melanosomes of a lot of animals these days, and it seems the current theme with large dinosaurs was that they were, like reds or greys, or no, not really greys, but reddish colours, reddish yellowish, those kind of colours, and that probably helped not only because they could see colour, like dinosaurs most likely saw colour, based off ancestral tetrapods, so they would have seen colour. They would have added as pretty much would have been a type of counter shading and stuff like that. So this actually does fit quite well. The colours do fit quite well, and actually would help it break its outline quite a bit. It'd be really interesting to see if we actually find the colours of a large theropod, and we can talk about it a little bit more. But science is always marching on, so it could potentially happen. Always very interested to see if that can happen. So obviously let him run off and do his thing. Second to last mod today we've got here, this is Ceratosaurus. by Master Doot. There is two versions of this. There is the Saurian Ceratosaurus, so that looks like the one right out of Jurassic Park 3. But Master Doot also added a paleo-accurate Acrocanthosaurus, and that's what we're covering today. Let's release that one there. So I have to say, I'm a really big fan of how this one came out. I'm not going to worry about the guests. The guests can go away. This is a female, male, and this one's a female too. So this is the male Acrocanthosaurus. Let's have a look at you. Just wait about that to go. I don't care about that. I don't care about the notifications. There we go. So this is Ceratosaurus. So if you guys are familiar with the Jurassic Park one, and is the one that's pretty much in the game, it literally just looks like a T-Rex with a nose horn. But that could not be further from the truth. The Ceratosaurs are a very different group of theropods. They're actually more closely related to things like Carnotaurus than they are to... They're the ancestors or one of the early relatives of Balesaurs. And they do have, you can see these 4 fingers here, which are actually quite well represented. They're from the early Jurassic of the Morrison, very much like other, like the Morrison, like Allosaurus and stuff like that. What's really cool, this is how this has been rendered, Ceratosaurus had a very, very lean, mean skull, you can see that there, very, very long and slender. A lot of people reconstruct its teeth a little bit too long, because they don't account for tooth slippage, because a lot of dinosaurs, their teeth are held in by ligaments. And you can actually tell on the teeth where the gum line starts. So if you put it back properly, obviously a lot of people let them drag down and because it makes for a better display, these big gnarly teeth. But in reality it wasn't quite as big. And I don't think Narwhaler did put, not Narwhaler, Master Doot put lips on these guys, but they most likely would have lips in life. But you can see the things on the crest. The crest is kind of what really sets it apart. The crest here, you can see Ceratosaurus has kind of these 2 really high orbital crests here, and this big nasal one here. And that really gives it that really distinctive profile. Honestly, what they did to the Jurassic Park 3 Ceratosaurus was almost as bad what they did to the Baryonyx, because they just get rid of all the characteristic features. They just made it a T-Rex, a red T-Rex with a horn, on its nose. But yeah, it's also known for having lots of osteoderms down the back. A lot more like basal kind of form. Very much almost like a thick Dilophosaurus. You can see it's a lot bigger and rounder with those 4 arms as well. 4 fingers, not 4 arms. Got those long legs, and you can see that tail is made quite a bit longer, of course, because of Jurassic Park making their tails too short. Yeah, this is pretty spot on for what we know of Ceratosaurus, and it's nice that we have a paleo-accurate one in here. Beautiful, beautiful animal. My only critique would be to put lips on it, but again, that's still Master Doot likes to keep things a little bit more in style with Jurassic Park, so this is a good marriage of that. So pretty good choice. So let them run off and do their thing, of course. And last but certainly not least, I'll let them actually run off because I know these guys, for some reason, they always like to hang around the hatchery. I've noticed they do that multiple times, but I'm going to make sure they run off. But this is a new species, as I always promise. I want to end these off with a new species now. First up, we've got Chilantaisaurus, so a very interesting animal. There we go. There we go. We'll put you in there because you look beautiful in that pose, girl. So this is Chilantaisaurus. So Chilantaisaurus is an extinct genus of large theropod from China. It lived during the late Cretaceous, younger than about 92 million years ago. So it was first described by Chinese paleontologist Hu Shouyong in 1964. And the genus contains a single valid species, which is Chilantaisaurus tashuguensis, but several other species have been described in this genus, and is known from a single incomplete postcranial holotype, and the specimen itself was found in a joint Sino-Soviet expedition to Inner Mongolia, and the rocks was found in its date from the Centonian or Campanian Cretaceous between 85 and 72 million years ago. So as I mentioned, very interesting discovery, and there's a few different species. Only one is considered valid at the moment, the rest are all considered Nomum dubiens, or part of another species. But the species that we do know, Tashunawensis, which is the one that is the type species, and the only species that is still considered valid, is only known from like bits of the legs, a bit arms, a claw, and a bit of the pelvis. But it does come up as actually a pretty large theropod. So it would have measured about 11 meters long and weighed between 2.5 to 4 metric tons as well. And some estimates have even pushed it up to 6 tons because it had a femur length very similar to Tyrannosaurus. But seemingly they would have been comparable. Most recent estimates suggested it would have been about 11 meters long. And the humerus is actually quite massive. It has a 580mm humerus, or 23-inch humerus, which makes it the largest known humerus of any non-Coelurosaurian theropod, and about double the size of something like Allosaurus, which is very interesting as well. And the humor to femur length ratio is actually comparable with things like Suchomimus, but much higher than the Carcharodontosaurids such as Acrocanthosaurus and Mapusaurus, though it is still shorter than things like Gigantoraptor and Deinonychus. So very interesting there. The ischium falgent is also relatively thin, in comparison with other large species like Giganotosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and Afrovenator and Allosaurus. They seem to have a much thin in comparison, so likely would have been a little bit leaner and meaner. So this genus itself, back in the day it was considered Carnosauria, but Carnosauria is a waste bucket taxon. However, 1980s and 90s they changed the definition, and they originally put it as sister to Carcharodontosaurid and those, Carcharodontosaurids. In 2012, some more recent taxonomies have kind of suggested they may have been a Spinosaurid, or potentially related to a Neo-Megalosaurid as well. In 2010, American paleontologists like Steve Brussetti and they are more part of the monophyletic clade, kind of with Neovenator and stuff like that, and potentially to more derived genera is related to mega, like in between Neovenator and Chilantaisaurus and Megaraptorans such as Australovenator and Megaraptor and stuff like that. But more recent things still put them in there. The third theory as well, it does suggest it's actually within Megaraptora. So basically the largest member of that group, or potentially one of the largest, comparable with things like Maip, potentially even larger than them. So inside Megaraptora, which is considered sister to Tyrannosaurids. The most recent description in 2024 was the description of the theropod of Aracacush, which I think I've covered before. They kind of found it actually was suggested it was a Coelurosaur, but they did not find Chilantaisaurus was a Coelurosaur at all. So it was found to be sister taxon to the most basal Carcharodontosaurids. And Megaraptor was recovered as a, Megaraptoran's taxonomy in itself is confusing. Whether they're Carcharodont related to, Coelurosaurs or not is also debated. In 2025, another analysis into Allosaurid phylogenetics recovered Chilantaisaurus both as a basal allosaur sister to Neovenator and a Tyrannosaurid as indeterminate affinities. So, that's very weird and taxonomical, which means, roundabout way, we know it's a large theropod, either related to T-Rex or Giganotosaurus, potentially Megaraptoran. We don't 100% know which way it will go. But what's really cool was the area it lived in. So the area, its paleoecology, the formation it lived in was dominated by red mudstone and siltstone, indicating a floodplain environment with like meandering rivers and stuff like that. So the formation of this deposit due to the transition from the Gobi to a wet fluvial environment to a dune environment in later Cretaceous. So this was back when the Gobi Desert was not a desert. And there's also one of the several dinosaur-bearing rocks of the Inner Mongolia, and did seem to live with dinosaurs such as Ornithomimus and the Pachycephalosaur Cynocephalae. So yeah, very interesting animal. And you can see, of course, the skin is based on, of course, the Jurassic Park 3 raptor. And I don't know what's up with those arms, but yeah, it doesn't look too bad. It just needs to not have those arms, and it would be perfect. Really, really cool. Big fan of that, and of course the one on the thumbnail. So yeah, I think that's a great place to finish for today. I really want to thank everyone who's been making these mods. I really love that we're making these Jurassic World Evolution mods. I know that a lot of people are really hanging out for the updates, but I actually am kind of liking that I can just sit with the game for a bit and do these mods instead of having to worry about, oh, I've got to worry about the next update so I can chill a bit. But yeah, of course, I really hope that new update comes, and I really hope a lot of these issues that I've had with the game, um, like the uh, cosmetics and stuff, there is hard to sometimes get male versions of skins. You have to have a default version. It's like there's no male version of the Dominion Parasaurolophus, for example. I think there'll be some things like releasing the hatchery. I did a whole video on it. I hope a lot of those get fixed sometime. So yeah, thank you, Master Doot, for the Ceratosaurus, the Acrocanthosaurus, and the Chilantaisaurus, and thank you, Narwhaler, for all those extra remasters of the the pterosaurs, but also the Triceratops and this Stygimoloch. So yeah, I really, really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like and subscribe, always remember to get little bell icons to get notified about anything. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye bye.